6 things you must stop doing to be taken seriously. There comes a point in life where you realize that being liked has never carried the same weight as being respected. The world politely tolerates people who move through life unsure, apologetic, overly available, desperate for approval, constantly bending themselves into shapes that do not belong to them. But the world listens, truly listens, to people who speak with the quiet steadiness of someone who has confronted themselves. People who have removed the unnecessary parts of their character, the same way a sculptor chips away at stone, not to destroy, but to reveal. Being taken seriously has nothing to do with being intimidating or dramatic. It has everything to do with trimming away the behaviors that make others assume you are unsure of your own life. Respect is not something you request. It's something that grows naturally when your life stops contradicting your words. Today, we're talking about the 6 things you must stop doing if you want to step into that version of yourself. The one people take seriously without you begging for it. The one people trust. The one people feel compelled to listen to because something about you feels grounded, deliberate, uncommon in the best way. These are not impressive traits at first glance. They don't make noise. They don't sparkle. They don't draw attention like flashing lights. They're quiet disciplines, the kind that feel uncomfortable at first and then become the fabric of who you are. And we'll begin with something most people don't realize is ruining their credibility every time they do it. 1. Stop giving advice. No one asked for, there is a strange temptation that follows anyone who has learned a hard lesson or two. When you feel you've survived something, you want to save people from the pain you already lived through. You see someone stumbling toward a mistake, and instinctively, you want to grab their shoulders and turn them around. But here's the truth. Unsolicited advice almost never lands as wisdom. It lands as arrogance. It lands as interruption. It lands as a small declaration that you assume the other person cannot handle their own life. I used to have a friend who would constantly vent about the chaos in their relationships, and for some reason, I treated every rant like a request for a strategy meeting. I would sit them down like a consultant, break down patterns, give a detailed analysis, almost like I was drawing diagrams on a mental whiteboard, and every time they would nod, agree, thank me, and do the exact same thing again. Eventually, I realized something. They were not talking to me to change their life. They were talking to unload the emotional pressure building inside them. My advice wasn't helping them. It was exhausting me and annoying them. When you give advice no one asked for, even if it's good advice, you communicate something subtle, that you believe your perspective is more valuable than their experience, that you know better than they do, that they should be more like you. And people instinctively resist anything that feels like an attempt to take control of their narrative. Stoicism teaches that most of life is outside our control, including the choices of other people. When you accept that truth deeply, you stop offering guidance as a way to manage outcomes. You begin to speak only when your words have been invited. And ironically, that is what makes people start asking for your opinion more often. They trust that you will not intrude. They trust that you respect their process. They trust that you know how to hold your tongue, a skill far rarer than people assume. People take you seriously when your words are rare enough to matter. Advice that is requested lands like a key. Advice that is uninvited lands like a burden. So stop trying to be the narrator of other people's lives. Master your own, and let others come to you when they're ready. 2. Stop trying to save people who don't want to change. One of the most draining roles you can adopt is becoming the personal firefighter in someone else's emotional disasters. You run toward flames they started. You soak yourself in their chaos. You crawl into collapsing buildings, trying to rescue a person who refuses to step outside even when the door is open. People do not change because you want them to. People change because the consequences of staying the same finally become heavier than the effort required to evolve. Until that moment, nothing you do will make a difference. Not the late-night lectures, not the long emotional messages, not the heroic attempts to fix someone's life with pure willpower. I once knew someone who lived in a constant cycle of self-destruction. They had this incredible charm that made you feel like you were the one person who could lift them out of their misery. They didn't ask directly for rescuing. They just created an atmosphere that pulled you into their problems. I remember nights filled with tired conversations that smelled like cheap takeaways and stale air, the room dim and heavy with the weight of their stories. I poured so much effort into guiding them, reminding them of their potential, reassuring them that life could be better. But every time things seemed stable, they would sabotage it all over again. Eventually, it hit me. I wasn't helping them. I was helping myself avoid the discomfort of letting people face the consequences of their own patterns. When you treat grown adults like projects, you drain your dignity, drop by drop. You train people to depend on you emotionally while resenting you silently for seeing them as a mess that needs fixing. And worst of all, you earn a reputation for lacking boundaries. People stop taking your words seriously because they see you violate your own limits every time someone shows a hint of distress. The Stoics believed deeply in the concept of self-responsibility. You can guide, you can support, you can inspire, but you cannot substitute your discipline for someone else's. You cannot hand them the motivation they refuse to pick up. You cannot enforce desire in a heart that prefers comfort over growth. Let people walk their own paths, even when the path is messy, confusing, or painfully slow. You're not abandoning them. You're respecting them enough to treat them like adults capable of choosing their direction. And the moment you stop trying to save everyone, you stop drowning in the emotional debts of people who never planned to repay you. People will take you seriously when you stop pouring your energy into those who don't value it. Your boundaries teach the world what you believe you deserve. 3. Stop responding emotionally to every slight. One of the quickest ways to lose respect, quietly, predictably, almost scientifically, is to overreact to everything. The smallest comment, the mildest tone shift, the tiniest mistake from someone around you. And suddenly you're offended, defensive, irritated, wounded, or ready to argue. People who respond emotionally to every slight become exhausting to be around. You walk on eggshells around them. You calculate every sentence. You keep conversations surface level to avoid the emotional storms that follow. And no matter how valid their feelings might be, the unpredictability overshadows everything else. There was a time when I used to take things too personally. If someone didn't respond fast enough, I assumed they were ignoring me. If someone sounded distracted, I assumed they were annoyed with me. If someone disagreed with something I said, I'd take it as a personal attack. It was like living with a microphone pressed against the world, amplifying every tiny sound until it felt like thunder. And honestly, it was exhausting for me and the people around me. The Stoics taught that our interpretations, not the events themselves, disturb us. In modern terms, not every social interaction needs a dramatic emotional soundtrack. Sometimes a sigh is just a sigh. Sometimes people are tired, not upset. Sometimes a comment is just a poorly worded sentence, not a hidden insult. Sometimes a delay is because life is chaotic, not because you're irrelevant. To be taken seriously, you must learn the art of emotional conservation, choosing which situations deserve your energy and which ones are dust on your shoulder. Responding with calmness doesn't mean you're passive or emotionless. It means you have trained yourself to separate your self-worth from the moods of the world. People trust the person who stays composed. They trust the person whose reactions are consistent, measured, thoughtful. They trust the person who doesn't flare up at shadows. When you improve your emotional discipline, you stop being the loudest person in the room and become the most grounded. And that shift, quiet as it is, commands respect effortlessly. 4. Stop speaking faster than you think. There is a difference between talking and speaking. Talking is what everyone does, filling silence with half-formed sentences, stuttering through explanations, reacting in real time without thinking, spilling thoughts like water from a cracked bucket. Speaking is different. Speaking is intentional. Speaking is paced. Speaking is the act of letting your mind walk ahead of your mouth so that your words land with clarity and weight. In a world addicted to noise, slow and deliberate speech is a superpower. Most people talk too fast because they fear silence. They worry that pauses make them appear unsure or unintelligent, but silence is one of the most powerful tools a person can wield. It creates gravity around your words. It shows that you are not frantic inside your own head. It signals control. I used to rush through sentences out of habit. My mouth moved like it was trying to outrun the impatience of the world. I'd finish conversations, feeling like I had spilled everything without actually saying anything. Eventually, someone older than me, someone who spoke with the calm certainty of a person who had seen entire seasons of life come and go, told me something simple. If you want your words to matter, stop rushing them. You're not in a race with your own tongue. The Stoics valued speech that was precise and measured. They believed that speaking slowly forces the mind to organize thoughts before releasing them. When you do this, your voice feels less like noise and more like presence. When you speak with intention, people listen differently. People remember what you said. People assume authority even if you didn't claim it. People treat your words as something to consider, not something to dismiss. Try this. Next time you speak, slow yourself down just a little. Let your sentences breathe. Let silence play its role. You'll notice how people lean in rather than tune out. Speech is not a race. Speak at the speed of thought, not the speed of anxiety. 5. Stop making promises your character can't carry. One of the fastest ways to lose respect, quietly, permanently, is to make promises that evaporate the moment life gets inconvenient. Promises are not sentences. Promises are statements of identity. Every time you say, "I'll do this," or "I'll be there," or "I'll change," you're making a small claim about your character. And when you break these promises, even for reasons that seem reasonable to you, other people file it away silently under one word: unreliable. Most people don't lose respect loudly. They lose it in small, invisible withdrawals. They stop trusting your word. They stop involving you in things that require follow-through. They stop expecting much from you, not out of resentment, but out of emotional self-protection. I once knew someone who promised everything with the enthusiasm of a motivational speaker. They would promise to show up early, promise to help, promise to commit, promise to change habits, promise to follow through on projects. And every time, life's smallest difficulty would send those commitments flying out the window. Whenever they spoke, you could almost hear the hollow echo behind their words. Eventually, no one took their promises seriously, not because they were bad people, but because their character never matched their mouth. The Stoics believed deeply in the alignment between word and action. To them, your promise was a slice of your soul, something not to be given lightly. Integrity is built in the moments no one sees. The early mornings, the quiet decisions, the small disciplines, the lonely hours where you do what you said you would do even when there is no applause. If you want to be taken seriously, shrink your promises but expand your consistency. Say less, do more. Stop announcing transformations. Let your character deliver them. Stop promising change. Let your habits reveal it. Stop forecasting who you will become. Let time tell the story. People respect the person whose actions never embarrass their words. 6. Stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. Perhaps the most subtle way people sabotage their own respect is by pretending to be less than they are. You dim your strengths to avoid jealousy. You hide your achievements because you don't want to seem arrogant. You downplay your personality because you don't want to overshadow others. You shrink yourself to fit into rooms that were never designed for your true size. But here's the quiet tragedy. People rarely respect the version of you that you shrink into. They respect the version of you that stands up straight, speaks honestly, moves confidently, and lives without constantly apologizing for existing. There was a period in my life where I tried to be endlessly agreeable, endlessly soft, endlessly neutral. I thought it made me easier to love, but instead, it made me invisible. People overlooked me, underestimated me, interrupted me, ignored the things I said, forgot the things I did. I had flattened myself into a silhouette, and silhouettes are easy to walk past. When you shrink yourself, you think you're being humble. But humility is not denying your value. It's recognizing it without needing to wave it in people's faces. Shrinking yourself is not humility. It's fear dressed like politeness. And people can feel that fear even if they don't mention it. They feel that hesitation in your voice. They sense the insecurity in the way you sidestep your strengths. They notice when you flinch at your own brilliance. The Stoics taught that a person should occupy their proper space in the world, neither inflating nor diminishing themselves. They believed that true confidence is simply the refusal to apologize for your existence. When you walk into a room with your full presence, not inflated, not muted, people feel it. You don't need theatrics. You don't need dominance. You don't need to overpower anyone. Respect does not come from performing strength. It comes from embodying truth. Stop shrinking. The world may not clap immediately, but it will take notice. Conclusion. Being taken seriously is not about intimidation or perfection. It's about removing the habits that quietly drain away your credibility. When you stop giving uninvited advice, stop trying to save everyone, stop reacting emotionally to every whisper, stop rushing your speech, stop breaking your own promises, and stop shrinking your presence, something remarkable happens. People begin to listen to you differently. Your voice carries weight. Your presence becomes a steadying force. Your path becomes clearer because you are no longer scattering your energy in 100 directions. And most importantly, you begin taking yourself seriously. Because respect is a mirror. People reflect back what you consistently show them. Let your life speak more loudly than your explanations. Let your discipline define your reputation. Let your growth be undeniable, not because you shouted it, but because you lived it. When you stop these 6 things, you don't just become someone others respect. You become someone you respect. And once that happens, the world follows.